Okay, so first thing we've got here for the sample testing, and we'll go through this one. And there's only 15 questions, so whenever you get ready to take the sample test, it should not take just too terribly long, hopefully. Okay, very first question just says factor. And if you want to, if you've got the factoring sheet, we'll kind of keep referencing back to on this one, that when you go through all these questions, I would say just kind of have that sheet out and have it ready so you can just keep going back to it and see what's going on. First thing is, it's 3 terms. And if you go back and check on your 3 terms, the first term is 1. So for that one, we get the shortcut. This one's just going to be the factors of 16. And it is a positive 16, where the sum would equal negative 10. Okay, start checking your factors. 1 and 16, 2 and 8, or 4 and 4. And because the B term is negative, that sign always has to go with the bigger number. Now, in this case, 4 and 4, it's a tie, so it doesn't matter which one you put there. So if you do a positive divided by negative, that is a negative, so they're both going to be negative. Pair that adds up to negative 10, that would be the 2 and 8. So y minus 2 and y minus 8. Okay. So as long as the A term is 1, it's just that straight shortcut. We don't have to worry about, any bottoms up or anything else. Question number 2, it has 4 terms, but again, they tell you it is factor by grouping, so, there's no real doubt about what you're doing with this one. Okay, so grouping the first 2 terms together, and then group the last 2 terms together. Okay, and depending on what that sign is, this sign always goes with this one and always gets all positive, but it's okay if it's double redundant that we put that plus there. Still okay. All right, for these 2 terms, take out the greatest common factor, u squared. There 2 and 7 don't have anything in common, so there's no number you can take out, just the variable. Leaves you with 2u plus 7. 10u and 35, you can divide them both by 5. So leave you with a 2u and plus 7. Okay, and again, the check always is, if these 2 things are the same, you did the grouping correctly. If those 2 things are the least little bit different, then you did something wrong, either by not taking out the right number or maybe you messed up a sign. But since these are all positive, there's really no signs to mess up here. Okay, so then you're going to take the 2 parts that you had 2 greatest common factors, and they will go together in 1 parentheses. And then the common part that we had back here, that'll go in the next parentheses. Okay, number 3 is 15c to the 3rd plus 10c squared. And for that one, there's only 2 terms, and if you look on the list for the graphing part when you get the 2 terms, the very first thing you always look for is a greatest common factor. Okay, 15 and 10, you can definitely divide those both by 5. You've got C3 and C2, so go ahead and take out 2 C's. So 15 divided by 5 would be 3. You take out 2, you're left with 1 to C's. 10 divided by 5 is 2. We took both of them out, and then from here. Okay. And after you take out the greatest common factor, the only other thing that it possibly could be is if this is perfect squares. And neither one of those numbers are perfect square numbers. They're both not, so that's all you can do. So for that one, all you can do is just take out the greatest common factor, and that's the only step you can do there. And again, if you've got that sheet with all the different parts on it, and apparently I forgot to bring one, 2 terms, that's your only 2 options. You always look for a greatest common factor first, then you look for the perfect squares, and if it doesn't have greatest common factor, then you automatically go to it being perfect squares. And that's the only 2 things it could be with 2 terms. Okay, number 4, still just a factoring problem. 5x squared plus 26x plus 5. Okay, 3 terms, and again, 3 terms is basically split into 2 parts. Either the a value equals 1 or the a value doesn't equal 1. So for this one, the a value is definitely not 1. There is no greatest common factor. 5 and 5, yes. 26, no. So there's not a greatest common factor to take out on this one. So if that was the case, this is the AC method. So we're going to do 5 times 25. So 5 times 5 is 25. So we're going to look for the factors of a positive 25, where the sum would equal positive 26. And with 25, there's only 2 choices. It's either 1, 25, which is 5 and 5. And again, the other good news is since they're all positive, well, then everything has to be positive here. Okay, pair that adds up to 26 is 125. Okay, now here's where you can do the 2 options. This is where we said you can either do the way the book does it, where they take out the 26 and replace it with 1 and 25, and you do factor by grouping, which is fine if you want to do that. We're going to go bottoms up method, which basically is this, is we're going to go ahead and write out these 2 factors with 1 and 25. But again, since the last number has to be 5, 1 times 25 is too big. That's where we're going to go back and divide both of these numbers by 5 to cancel out when we multiply by 5 back at the beginning. Okay, 25 divided by 5 is 5. 1/5 won't simplify. It's already in simplest form, so this is where we do the bottoms up. Pull the 5 up in front of the x. And then the 1 would stay there. And that's our final answer. Good. And again, the quick check is always check your first 2 numbers. 5x times x would be 5x squared. Check your last 2 numbers. 1 times 5 is 5. And if those 2 match up, you're pretty well safe that you did it the right way. I mean, there's a chance it could be wrong, but more than likely, if that's set up and those 2 numbers are good, then you're probably good on everything else on the inside. Okay. Number 5, again, told you we're going to do factor by grouping on this one. It does have some negatives, so here's where you got to be just a little bit careful. 2u to the 3rd plus 7u squared, which is almost the same part we had up here earlier, but the last 2 numbers are a little bit different. Minus 12u minus 42. Grouping the first 2 together. And then for the last 2, again, on that one, you do need the negative in with the 12. Okay. Same thing. Take out greatest common factor. U the third and U the second. You can take out a U squared. Leave you with a 2U plus 7. Both of these numbers are negative, so we'll definitely have to take out a negative. 12 and 42, you can divide them both by 6. Yeah. So negative 12 divided by negative 6 is 2. With the U, and then negative 42 divided by negative 6 is a positive 7. Okay, so it does check. Both parentheses are good, so we've got that part. So bringing everything back together, we'll have U squared minus 6 and 2U plus 7. Okay, number 6 changes gears just a little bit because this one says find the greatest common factor. Again, remember, you've got to key on the noun part and not on the adjective part. If it's factors, it's the numbers that are getting smaller. So all the factors of 1 and 25, if 1 and 25, or it's 5 and 5, if it's 15, 1 times 15 and 3 times 5. You've got to tell me the biggest number they have in common. Well, that's 5. And then as far as variables go, you tell me the smallest power that they both have. X has 1 here. There's no X's in this one, so we don't do anything with the X. This one has a Y. This one doesn't, so there's nothing there. So 5 would just be your greatest common factor. And it's basically one of these problems back here. When we did factor by grouping, found the greatest common factor, the first 2 terms or the last 2 terms. It's that same thing, really, when it comes down to that part. Okay, number 7. Okay, y squared minus 81. And if it says factor, you always, first thing I would do is just count how many terms you have. You've got 2 terms. And if it's 2 terms, the very first thing you always look for is their greatest common factor. There's not one. So that one's off the list, which means we get to do the perfect square shortcut. And if it's perfect squares, well, y squared is y times y. 81 is 9 times 9. And since it's a negative 81, one's got to be negative and one's got to be positive. So in 2 terms are always pretty much that straightforward. You find the greatest common factor, if there is one. If there's not one, then it has to be 2 perfect squares. That's the only 2 things you can be. And it will always be pretty much that part. You're going to take the square root of the first number. You're going to take the square root of the second number. First letter goes first, and then that number goes second. And that's all you got to do. Okay, number 8, also a factor. And also just 2 terms. So basically, same checklist here, right? First thing is greatest common factor. You do have a 7 and a 21. So you can divide them both by 7. U minus 3, there's no perfect squares here. So for that one, that's all you had to do. All right, number 9. All right, so number 9. It says to solve. Now, any of the ones that we're going to solve on this, basically, you can say that's going to be solved by factoring. Okay, so solve by factoring. Here's what we're going to do. With number 9, it's 2x squared minus 3. Equals 5x. Now, anytime you're going to solve with the way the trinomials and everything are set up, you have to set it equal to 0. So whatever the equation is, ever how they've got it written, you've got to take these things and move the terms around so all the terms are on one side and it equals 0. Okay, so for this one, the first thing you would do is you would have to move the 5x from the right-hand side to the left-hand side to get 2x squared minus 5x minus 3 equals 0. Okay, once it's equal to 0, it's just a normal regular factoring problem. Now that you're here, it's 3 terms on the left-hand side. The first term is at 1, so you're going to do the AC method. So we're going to start off multiplying 2 times negative 3. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6, and that's what we've got to find the factors of. The sum is going to equal negative 5. Now, this is one of those problems. I kept waiting for one of these to pop up. This is one that you really got to be careful with the signs, because you can get 6. You can get 5 two different ways. You can do 6 minus 1, or 1 minus 6 to get negative 5, or you can do negative 2 minus 3 to get negative 5. So this one, the signs are really important because you can get the wrong answer in a hurry on this one. Because the b term is negative, the bigger number has to be negative. And again, to get the other number, a negative divided by negative is a positive. So you got to have it where one's positive and one's negative. So for that part, it's going to have to be the 1 and the 6. All right, and again, because we multiplied by 2 in the beginning, we've got to go back and divide by 2. So this will get 2x minus 3. And normally I would tell people to kind of not do this part, will be okay. Go ahead and do the bottoms up on this one. It's 2x plus 1. It does a little bit of extra work, but that's okay because it follows the same pattern from what we've been doing, so we're going to do it the same way. With solving, the only thing you do different is once you get to the end, you just set each parentheses equal to 0. One on the right side, really easy. Just add 3 to both sides. That's x equals 3. The one on the left side, we'll subtract 1. And then divide by the 2. Okay, now again, where that got left out somewhere along the objectives, I'm not sure. But you should start to see, went back and clicked on those, so there should start seeing some of those pop in there. It's the exact same thing as factoring, it's just when you get to the end, you just set each parenthesis equal to 0, and then you've got the 2 solutions that you're looking for. And we'll get another one of those come up here in just a minute. So if we need to at the end, we'll come back and practice on a few more of those. Okay, number 10. Again, it's another factor, w squared plus 14w plus 49. Okay, so again, 3 terms. The a value is 1, so we do get the shortcut on this one. And with the shortcut, we're looking for the factors of 49, where the sum would equal positive 14. And again, there's only 2 choices. It's not 1 and 49, so it's going to have to be 7 and 7. Okay, so you got w plus 7, w plus 7. They should make you go ahead and take that one more step, since you got 2 of the same thing, and make it w plus 7 squared. Good. And for that one, this is one of those you could have used the perfect square shortcut, but it's really so short that the shortcut doesn't really help because it's not a very long problem. Okay, number 11. Another factor. 20 v to the fifth x to the ninth plus 24 v squared x to the seventh and y to the fourth. Okay, two terms. So again, very first thing you're going to look for is the greatest common factor, which it's definitely got a lot of that. 20 and 24, you can divide them both by 4. And if they have the same variables, which they have here, they both have v's, you can take the smaller amount of v's out, so that's a v squared. This one has an x to the ninth, this one has an x to the seventh, so we can take out 7 of the x's. This one has a y, this one doesn't, so that's as far as the greatest common factor can go there. Okay, and then the rest of the way, you're just going to divide them. 20 divided by 4 is 5. If you take out 2 of the v's, you've got 3 left over. Take out 7 of the x's, you've also got 2 left over. 24 divided by 4 is 6. Take out 2 v's, they're gone. Take out the x's, they're gone. And that'll leave you with y to the fourth. And once you're and again, on the inside, there's no perfect squares. So if there's no perfect squares, then scratch that one off. Okay, number 12. Gives you a little hint on this one. One little extra word there. Factor completely, right? So for that one, they're giving you a heads up that you might have to do a little bit more than you normally would do. So we've got 2w squared plus 22w plus 48. So 3 terms. The a value is not 1. So anytime the a value is not 1 or it is 1, the very first thing you always look for is a greatest common factor. Okay, 2, 22, 48. You can divide them all by 2. So that would leave you with a w squared, 11w, and 24. Okay, once you've taken out the greatest common factor, now the a term is just 1, so now you've got the shortcut. Then on the inside here, now you can find the factors of positive 24, where the sum would equal positive 11. Okay, and again, they're all positive, so we don't have to worry about any signs. The pair that adds up to 11 is the 3 and the 8. So then the final answer is a 2 on the outside. And on the inside, we'll do a w plus 3 and a w plus 8. Okay, and the big hint on that one, I think, was that it didn't just say factor completely, so you know you've got to do a little bit extra beyond all the other stuff that we were doing. All right, 13. Has a little bit of a weird look to it here. It says we're going to do factor by grouping. But instead of just giving you a number to do, they go ahead and kind of make you it says factor by grouping, but then they tell you to do the AC method. which really means you're doing the AC method. You're going to do the AC method first, but then they want you to use factor by grouping to go from there. So they really kind of reverse this one around, because if you look at it, it's 3 terms, and if it's 3 terms, you can't do factor by grouping. So this one, they kind of went backwards on this, and they should have said factor using the AC method, but then do it with factor by grouping. So they really reversed how they should have said this one, because it's just not the right way. So we'll go ahead and do the AC method first. So it's 4 times 14, which is negative 56. So it's the factors of negative 56, where the sum is going to equal positive 1. Okay, if you go through your numbers, it's definitely not 1 and 56. It's not going to be 2 and 28. 4 and 14. 6 doesn't go. The next and only pair left in is 7 and 8. Okay. The B term is positive, so the bigger number has to be positive. If you do a negative divided by positive, the other number has to be a negative. Okay, this one says to go back and fill in the blanks with the appropriate signs. And so it has to be the negative 7 and the positive 8. So again, according to their breakdown, we've got the 14x squared with plus x minus 8. This is where they want to take you away from this one and replace it with these two numbers. And I'm guessing since this sign is positive, you put the plus first. And then you put the minus second. Now, to me, you can go either way. So for the way this problem is set up, to me, you should be able to pick either one of the 2 middle options that's on the sheet here. Because whether you do it this way or whether you do it this way, you'll still get the same answer. So I don't know why they make you pick which one's which there. Oh, sorry, it is. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, take out the 4 there. Okay. All right, sorry, let's make it that way. Okay, so you can go, to me, you can go either one of those 2 routes and get the same answer. I'm just not sure which one they're wanting, because either answer's fine. If you're working on the numbers, these numbers match up better because you're 14 and 7, you could take out a 7. 8 and 4, you could take out a 4. You know, if you go back here, the only thing these two would have in common would be a negative 1, but you can still get the correct answer, because if you group these two together, we'll go ahead and do it both ways, because again, you can get the same answer either way. And we'll actually go back and work this one in a minute just to see exactly what happened here. 14 and 7, you can take out a 7. They both have an x. So that would leave with 2x, and we do 7 divided by 7. That would leave it with just a 1 there for a placeholder. Same thing with the 8 and 4. You can take out a 4 and leave you with 2x minus 1. So you do have the 2 parentheses here that's the same. So that's 2x minus 1. And then you've got 7x plus 4. Okay, and back here, you'll get the exact same answer with this one. The only thing that's going to be different is that this order is going to be reversed, but you'll still get the same answer. So I'm not sure exactly why they're giving me the 2 options there. With 14x squared and 8x, that one you can divide them both by 2 and x, which would leave you with 7x plus 4. These two, the only thing you have in common is, now the numbers are good, but the signs are wrong. So for this one, you would basically just factor out a -1. But again, you still have the same thing in common, so it's 7x plus 4, and you would put the 2x minus 1 first. So for that one question, that would be one that if y'all answered this one on the test, and you picked either one of the two in the middle, if it marks it wrong, that's where you come back and tell me, because either answer should be fine for that one. It should be okay. I'm not sure why they're making you pick one or the other. So if you're going through one of those and you get one, just know that you can get two answers. As long as you get this answer at the end, it really doesn't matter which of those two options you go through. So to me, when they point blank tell you have to put this number, no, that's an option that you can put either number either place, and it's fine. I'm not sure why they made you do one specific and one a certain way there. So. And I may go back in and just change that one and just put in just a regular trinomial so that we don't have to do that. So that may be something that I'll go back through and fix that, because forcing you to do that one factor by grouping is okay, but you don't have to, because there's other ways of doing it. We could do the bottoms up method we were talking about, and you can do it either way. So I'll change that as soon as we get finished with this review, because I don't like that question. All right, 14. This is another solve. And again, with the solving, as long as it's equal to 0, we're good to go. For this one, again, if you take out the equal 0 part, it's got two terms. And anytime it's two terms, again, you're still going to do the same thing. You're going to look for the greatest common factor. Okay, 6 and 30, you can divide them both by 6. They both have a v. So 6 divided by 6 is 1. If you take out one of the v's, there's 1 left over. 30 divided by 6 is 5. Take out one of the v's, it's gone. Equals 0. And once you're here, this is not perfect squares, so you can't go any farther with that one. This is one you just take these two numbers and just set each parentheses equals 0. Because you could technically say that would be in a parentheses by itself there. Solving this one, divide by 6, v is still 0. And for this one, subtract 5 from both sides. So v will be -5. Okay, and then the last one that's on here. So another one that says factor completely. So with factor completely, that means it's almost, when they tell you that one, you're pretty much going to take out a greatest common factor. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So whenever they tell you the word completely, they're going ahead and tell you right now, look for greatest common factor. I mean, that's really both of the problems we've had. They're both set up the exact same way. Okay, 4, 48, and 48. Wait, 4, 4, and 48. You can divide them all by 4, so go ahead and divide everything by 4. So you have w squared plus 1w, or just w, minus 12. So now you're looking for the factors of -12, where the sum would equal +1. Okay, and again, b term is positive, so that has to go with the bigger number. And if you do a negative divided by positive, it makes the other number a negative. And the pair that'll give you +1, that's the 3 and the 4. So it's 4 times w minus 3 in one parentheses and w plus 4 in the other.